Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. If you've been tuning into the channel for a while now, you know that I love to throw in the occasional oddity as something a little bit different from the regular three-hander. And I've chucked in a number of unusual watches for you over the years, including the Triffolio Millimetro, the Gravity Alpha, and who can forget that green and white thing that I reviewed by DWIS just before Christmas. Today it's the Lecronos by Lenvino. I think probably the most beautiful of the alternative watches that I've reviewed on the channel to date. You're gonna have to spend a bit of time getting used to reading this one, but I think you'll be well rewarded if you do put in the effort. And the specs are bang on for the money. Seiko movement, domed sapphire crystal, nice leather strap, yours for around $250 US. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Let's start with a quick look at the Lenvino website. Timeless time. Whew. That one made me shudder when I saw it. Their website isn't the best, to be honest. It's a little bit all over the place, but there is still plenty of information about the Lecronos if you're interested, including its design inspiration from 1960s, 70s tachometers and speedometers of sports cars. And I reckon it does a pretty good job of replicating that look. So there are 8 different colorways available and 2 different strap choices, giving you 16 different variants of this watch to choose from. Prices range from $240 to about $290, depending on the finish and depending on which of the 2 straps you go for. Regardless, they all come in this fairly simple little cardboard box. And I think they make a really good fist of what they were going for. That kind of vintage racing style, looked like a tacho, looked like a speedo. So what do we got in here? 1 year warranty, always prefer 2, but a number of companies these days are only giving you 1 on an auto. And an e-manual, which I think is a really nice way of doing things. Scan the QR code and it'll pull up a instruction manual on your phone. Not that we read the instructions anyway, do we, gentlemen? So let's get into this rather attractive and definitely quirky little watch then. So let's get dimensions and specifications out the way first. 43 millimeters in diameter, about 13.5 mil thick, 47 mil lug tip to lug tip. So fairly wide, beautifully circular, but rather short lug tip to lug tip, so it should wear quite nicely on wrist. 20 millimeters lug width, and on the supplied leather strap, this one weighs in at 83 grams. I'd imagine you can add about 30 grams if you do opt for the Milanese, opt for the mesh one. So 316L stainless steel, it's a 3-piece case. Also a little steel crown there. This particular colorway is a very pale gold IP coated. Now it has got a screw down case back there, only water resistance. So that is effectively 30 meters of water resistance. I wouldn't be getting this one wet if I was you. You're not going to be getting it too wet anyway on the standard leather strap, but if you do opt for the mesh, don't get tempted to swim with this one because it's probably not going to thank you for it. Alright, on to the next question. What bloody time is it? Well, this one, it's a three-hander, but they've done it slightly differently. So the long hand here, the white hand, points to the hour. The red hand points to the minute. And we've got a little rotating second hand on the inside there in blue. We also have a date, which I think they've done really nicely. They've integrated that date down at the 6 o'clock with a pointer pointing to the center, aligned with a 12, which shows you what date it actually is today. So there's a piece of domed sapphire crystal covering the dial, and they have printed all of these numerals on the dial, and I think they've got it just about right. So as noted, you're going to have to do a bit of work here. You're going to have to slightly relearn how to read the time. So what time is it? Well, it is 8 o'clock, 8:15, and it is coming up to 45 seconds past the minute, if you see what I mean, on the 25th. So not that difficult to read. In fact, I'm going to test you. Ready, go. 11:10 on the 26th. Ready, go. 4 minutes to 2 on the 27th. So it's okay actually if you're reading when the minute is in the top half. So somewhere between 2:15 and 2:15, the red hand is prominent. However, it does get more difficult if it is between 2:15 and 2:15. Ready, go. That's 3:30, and the red minute hand is not as noticeable, I don't think, when it's on the bottom half of the dial, particularly as it doesn't have numerals to line up against to give you a bit of a visual clue. Ready, go. Well, that's 6:25, and that's probably when this watch is at its most difficult to read, when the hour and the minute hand are both in this zone between 4 and 8, so you don't have the Arabics guiding you. I think it could get a little bit tricky if you're trying to read this one at a glance, anytime between 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock AM or PM. But let's be honest, you're not buying this one as a practical timekeeping piece, are you? You're buying it as a bit of an oddity, a bit of an objet d'art, a bit of a conversation piece on your wrist. And I think it really does look very attractive. I think they've got the Arabics just right. You've got all these lovely concentric circles from the very inside all the way out to the edge of the dial, and a beautifully circular watch face, some elegant lugs there too. Flipping the watch over to the case back, and they've done that slightly unusual thing where they've given you a see-through case back and then obscured it with a print. Really not quite sure why companies do that. Anyway, this is another one of these auto sport references, I think from a few decades prior. This is one of those screwed lug nuts, old spoked racing wheels from the 1940s or even the 50s perhaps. Screw down, but only water resistant, advertising the Japanese movement, and 316L stainless steel, and it's Lecronos. Movement in here is the venerable NH35. So the design of the watch may be a little odd, but it's still the good old NH35 in the back of it. So a Seiko hacking and hand winding automatic movement with 24 joules, roughly a 40-hour power reserve. This one beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and as you can see here, this one coming in about +11, +12 seconds per day, which is perfectly within tolerances for these. Their stated tolerances of -20 to +40, so around +10 seconds a day is perfectly acceptable, though good luck getting an accuracy reading off the dial of the watch. You'll be struggling with that one due to the lack of markings. But enough of the technicalities. You're not really buying this one because of the movement or its stated accuracy, are you? You're buying it because it doesn't look like anything else you've got in your collection or anything else you're likely to see on anyone else's wrist this month. And I think it looks great. Really, really good looking. I think the black and gold very much complement each other, perhaps in keeping with a vintage motorsport theme from the 1970s. And there we are, a little higher up for perspective. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference. Now 43mm in diameter, I would normally balk at wearing a watch this size, but perhaps because of the compact 47 short lug tip to lug tip, it wears quite nicely, doesn't it? I think it looks nicely in proportion. And I also like the perforated rally style, again in keeping with the vintage motorsport look. And you've got that Lecronos, quite an angular buckle there, but nicely branded as well, which is good. And there is the watch out in a bit of natural light. If you thought it was hard to get a read on the time under the studio lights, try taking it out and doing it at a glance. It's nigh on impossible. But then this watch is not about practicality. It's about the opposite. You know, we're throwing practicality out of the window today in favor of aesthetics. And if you like the look, then I think it looks great. Looks good on wrist as well. As noted, it's a fairly chunky little thing at 13.5mm, but those short lugs, bit of curvature, means it wears pretty nicely. So if we're moaning and niggling today, you can take practicality and legibility and you can throw them straight out of the window with this one. And as noted, you've got a see-through case back with so much crap on it that you can't actually see the movement, which rather defeats the purpose. And there is a unsigned crown. Always a disappointment when companies get a generic crown. They don't put a little bit of branding, a little bit of LV or something there just to show you that they've taken care of that detail, they've thought about it. But $240 if you want to add an oddity to your collection. This is definitely one of the better value ones. We've got proper sapphire crystal and a design that doesn't look like anything else that I have reviewed. $250 I don't think is a bad price for this.
Like I say, it's not going to be for everybody. Some of you will no doubt be horrified by the prospect of wearing one of these on your wrist. But if you're looking for something that doesn't look like anything else and it'll add a really unusual element to your collection, then the Lecronos, I think, the specs to price to design ratio is pretty good for this one.
So there you have it, the Lecronos by Lenvino. Their website, perhaps not the best in the world, but if you're prepared to dig around a little bit, I think you'll be amply rewarded by this one. A very, very pretty watch. It's not going to be to everyone's taste, I admit. Relearning how to read the time after however many years you've been reading the time is not going to be something that everyone wants to do. But of all the oddities that I've looked at on the channel, and I'm sure there will be many more in the months and years to come, this, I think, definitely one of the most convincing. Lovely piece of domed sapphire. I think they got the dial just about spot on. 250 bucks. I don't think that's an awful lot of money if you want to add something very different to the left field of your watch collection. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.